I have got my drink with me as well, so I'm not gonna forget about that. Hey guys, how you doing? Welcome to our stream of Arsenal All or Nothing. We do have quite a bit of depth to go through today. Not saying it's going to be a long stream; it's just going to be an in-depth stream of us really giving our thoughts on some key talking points. If you guys are there, then I would love to hear what your talking points are from the actual series. We're seeing some things that are greatly uncovered, which we've never been able to talk about before because we haven't had a lot of confirmations on things that have happened. And it's really great to get clarity on the situation of what's going on behind closed doors. But before we talk about that, let's revisit yesterday's game. Great result yesterday. And you can follow my game vlog. Thank you very much for those of you who have already watched it and commented on it. It is a lot for me to do for you guys, but I enjoy doing it. And for those people who have never been to the Emirates Stadium as well, you kind of get to see the camaraderie around what's going on there. And it's almost like I'm sharing the fan day experience with you guys next to me. So I'll keep on doing that. I enjoy it very much. Secondly, want to I race back. It's really weird. I'm racing back from the game, listening to it on the radio, watching the stream of the guys on 101 doing the game, the game thread, and then I rush through the door, try to get my quick players ratings in, and then we close off the stream. So it's quite funny how it all plays out. But Vincey wasn't there yesterday, so I wanted to get Vincey's thoughts about yesterday's game. Vincey, what was your thoughts about our win yesterday? And obviously the result today with Chelsea and Spurs drawing 2-2.
Yeah, it was good evening, family. Yeah, man, it was for me. I was just happy with the fact that Arsenal were able to bounce back whenever we went a goal down, and we showed intent. Quite easily. It could have been a game where we could have won 5-6-0. Sometimes these things happen where misunderstanding, um, miscommunication, an own goal, and I'm just so happy with the reaction the fans gave Saliba after that, picking him up. The guys are start. I have so much faith and belief in his abilities alongside Martinelli, and I'm so pleased for him today because yes, he's playing out on the left hand side and he sees himself in that role, and the guy's a menace, and he's still not even hitting the ground running, and you can see how vital he is with the link up with Jesus right now. We've got balance on both right and left. Saka didn't have a great game. Quite easily could have been substituted earlier. I know Tony was mentioning about Pepe giving a chance, but that's down to Arteta with the options that he has, and the key thing is he has options. I thought midfield, Xhaka had a really good game. Partey, maybe not so, but again, plays. The key thing is we're having players who are stepping up, being in position, score goals, and there's a nice vibe. There really is a nice vibe around the Emirates, and I do believe, and I did say this, that this All or Nothing documentary, the timing of it is key for Arsenal. So as fans, we understand some of the nonsense that's been going on for years. We're now starting to see what's going on behind the scenes, what Arteta's about, what players are about, and we can now come hit the ground running in a season where, we're all uplifted by watching the documentary, and the guys on the pitch are putting in performances. So yeah, man, I'm just loving it.
Excellent. So, guys, let's get right onto it. Let's talk about all or nothing. And first of all, you guys know I'm in episode 4. The cat's out of the bag now, and a lot of people kind of stopped me yesterday at the Emirates Stadium and was talking to me about the appearance. And some people I've met for the first time, so well received from you guys. And I just enjoyed doing the whole thing. And there's one thing that I really want to take from this, and I'm not against any YouTube channel. I support all of the channels. we might have different narratives, and the way I do things here at 101 is very positive. We don't try and F and blind and you're sacked and we want you out and all of that stuff. And I know it gets a lot of views and everything, but we don't do that here. What you're going to get here is you're just going to get sensible, tactical analysis. You're going to get good, balanced views. And, when we get it right, it's all beautiful. It's all wonderful, fantastic. But when we get it wrong, we critique where we need to, and we don't overly do that. We just say what needs to be said, and then we move on to the next one. So, we're very well balanced here, and I hope you guys appreciate that. But the reason why a lot of our guys was working with Amazon is because of that one thing. It's because we didn't have this, we didn't have a toxic nature at 101. We were well balanced. We were passionate. We were analytical, and we were caring. And that is, Amazon appreciated that. So again, big shout out to Charu and Piers and the guys behind Amazon who allowed us the chance to voice and air our opinions. I really, 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 from the bottom of my heart, appreciate the fact that they did a lot of work with us in the fan base and allowed us to be a part of their amazing show, of which we will be there in history, regardless what happens. That is there and done and set in stone. And moving on from that, let's talk about some of the things that we saw on.
Can I just ask though, Apollo, one thing though? When I see you put a comment on our forum post saying that loads of fans are meeting you and saying hi. When you go into the home games in future, could you just try and get some photos with the guys and just like little selfies, just because it's bigging them up, because it's nice for them to actually meet you, and it's a nice touch for them to, as a memory to. I know you're a star as it is, but it's a nice it's a nice touch for them to have a photo with our admin and
it's because what I actually started to do on the weekend is I met two guys there, and I actually put them on my vlog. So they were on my video game vlog, and I love both of them guys' passion and everything. Met them for the first time, and it was really good to sort of kind of get that feedback. But yeah, I'll continue to make those guys.
Yeah, man, because it's just
I'll continue
just spreading the love,
So one of the things that I wanted to talk about, and again, feel free to bring up anything on the show you want, but I'll kind of mediate it as I see in terms of some key talking points. One of the things that has frustrated me is that when I hear fans talk about two things, Arteta behind everything, because we know Arteta's not the owner, he's not the main decision maker, and Stan Kroenke. And for years I've been saying to the guys, look, Josh is the guy who's running this team. He's in charge. He's a decision maker. All the ideas coming from Vinay, Edu, and Arteta, because Arteta's got a say on how some things work as well as everybody else. But it all gets signed off by Josh. And I think the benefit of this show is that it actually does staple the presence of Josh Kroenke. And Josh even actually said, I've been saying this for years. And when Josh said, well, when I came in 2018, I was like, and that is when Arsenal started spending money. The first thing that Josh said, and you guys will remember this, he said, I've got something big I'm working on, and you guys are going to be blown away. He was talking about the Pepe deal. But what Josh was innately saying was, I'm going to be ambitious. I'm going to spend money like you guys have never seen before, and I'm going to target for what for us would be the best players. And at the time when he said that, let's be fair, no one took him seriously, because what we had seen is a decade of Stan, his father, who basically was a silent partner and did nothing. He didn't put money into the club, didn't make funds available. A couple of times he did, but then that wasn't innately him. That was just our transfer budget. That's how it worked. What Josh has done is he's gone over the allotted amount. He's gone over above and beyond the call of duty, where Arsenal have actually not made any money. For the last 2 years, we've accumulated 83 million in debt. So we're actually losing money as a business. for two reasons. Obviously, one's COVID, one's because our wage bill was too high. And it just far exceeded our operating costs. But he's come in, and credit to him, he's managed that. He's managed the debt, he's managed the deficit, and on top of that, most importantly, he's provided funds for us to spend. So I can't say enough about this guy. For me, Josh is the presence. Josh is the reason why we're in the position we are today. And that's because he's gone about and pushed the myth about his father of being silent Stan and the unpopular owner. And he's come in and he's just turned that around. And he's visible in and around London Coney. He comes to the games more. What we know, he watches the games at all hours of the morning when he's in America. But he's a constant presence in our club, and that says a lot. What's your thoughts on that, Vincey?
I think, I mean, I agree with what you're saying, but I think in perspective of all of these things, these are stuff that needed to happen. You know, so as much as you're giving Josh all these plaudits, you got to recognise how bad a situation Arsenal Football Club was in, and how Stan allowed it to be in that situation. And this is where fans' frustrations and pains over the years has come to the fore, where, you know, we've been calling for something like this, and okay, Josh has come in and he said obviously he's going to have to bridge the gap. So he's starting to bridge the gap. And again, I still believe we're 2 years behind in what should have been done, but I'm grateful it has been done, because we can now see where actually, you know what, we're starting to turn the corner. You know, we can look up at a famous club as Manchester United and see how bad a situation they are in right there with their owners and stuff off the field. And as fans, we don't want Arsenal to be in that situation. But if Josh didn't come in, who knows where we'd be, and in that situation. So, you know, he's Josh and the team have made some good decisions. Me personally, the last 2 years, I think we did get out of jail with the Willian situation, but these things happen. You know, we're in a situation where, you know, we can feel positive about our team. Arteta's had now a few years now of experience of being in tough situations. So where I am at the start of this season, as I said, it's a good position as an Arsenal fan.
So good evening to Alex. I hope you guys are doing well. Hope you enjoyed the game yesterday, Alex. Alex said a start is born. Well done, Apollo, representing all or nothing. I appreciate that, bro. I appreciate that, man. So the other thing that I wanted to talk about as well, and we'll just address key issues here. The other thing I wanted to talk about as well is something that touched dear to my heart, was Kieran Tierney opening up about mental health. Now, this is probably the most controversial part of the entire series, because something like this has affected him and a lot of people. We're coming out of an area of COVID, and there are more suicides and deaths and mental health problems that we've ever faced before as a society. And that's the reason why Arsenal did this thing with Spurs and Chelsea, which was the Mind charity games last summer. And I thought that was really positive for all three teams to do. For Kieran Tierney, it hit home for him because 2 or 3 of his friends had committed suicide, lost their lives, and he felt a certain responsibility to help as much as he could. And I thought that was really touching. You know, things like this, Vincey, we never hear players talking about on social media. We never see what's behind the mask. And it really does show us how vulnerable these players are.
Yeah, I mean, it's huge. I mean, there's, you know, football is society. You know, mental health is not, as a sportsman, it's part and parcel of what helps you get there. Some overcome it and some manage it better. But, you know, you've got the other side of the coin where you've got hugely talented players who didn't make it because of mental health. And then how they manage their mental health as a result of that rejection is tough. So I think we all need to be mindful about how we sometimes view these sportsmen, some of the chants, some of the frustrations, some of the behavior on social media. These people aren't robots. We look at it as glamorous, and how much money they get, but forget they're no different than you and I. They just have the privilege of playing football at this high level, and they still have feelings.
And this brings me on to something which again comes down to mental health, and this is about Saka. Again, letting us see a little bit more what was behind the scenes. Alex says, I worry about Tierney, documented he was homesick and then friends taking their lives, and to add the fact that he cannot stay injury free. Yeah, it's a big, big, big issue. And it's one that I hope that the fans will understand and take part in. And before I talk about Saka, I have to talk about William Saliba, because part of our responsibility as a community of fans is to understand that these players are going through these things and look after them accordingly. And William Saliba was a person who was homesick. He lost his mother and he had all kinds of issues going on. And what happened yesterday, and I stated it in my game vlog, I talked about last year when we booed the kids off the Emirates in the first game when we lost to Chelsea, and how different it was, the disparity between yesterday seeing Saliba score an own goal, knowing that that must have been played on him. You could do 1,000 things good at 21 years old, but all it takes is one mistake to bring you down to rock bottom. And the way the fans responded, even Mikel Arteta, Thierry Henry sitting in the stands, everybody was because I've never seen it at the Emirates. I've been a season ticket holder for 13 years at the Emirates Stadium, day one, and I've never seen the crowd response like that. I've seen players make mistakes. I've seen the crowd get onto them. I've seen it silence the crowd. And what I saw yesterday, and people didn't realize, it wasn't that they cheered him when he touched the ball, but the second time he touched the ball, they cheered him again and gave him a standing ovation. So actually, I don't know whether you guys actually caught that.
I didn't catch that.
Yeah, but they actually did it twice. The first time they cheered when he touched the ball, and when the ball was passed back to him, they cheered louder and gave him a standing ovation. And then 5 minutes after that, he cleared the ball off the line. It was just the whole field of events. We have a responsibility to take care of these players and look after them and understand these things that have happened to them in order for them to grow as football players, which brings me on to Saka. Now, Kuke is saying Saka was hurtful. Getting gifts from non-playing staff was so wholesome. This whole thing with England and missing the penalty shootout, and it was just like seeing everyone comfort him and seeing how he's just looked at around the canteen and the table and the staff. It's just phenomenal. The level of support. That's what surprises me. The fact that you hear Vinay having these conversations with Edu, and they're talking about Arteta. When the Aubameyang situation was going on, it was almost like none of them wanted to press the buttons. There was even one shot, Vincey, where they said, "Look, let's phone the lawyers because we don't know how bad this. We don't know where we stand."
You know what? I think we need to have a separate segment on that, because I don't think we should cross it with the Saka situation, because that on its own is a talking point on many levels that some fans may not want to go into. But I think, again, this is what highlights from all of nothing where our club is. But just touching on Saka, Saka's loved. His dedication to Arsenal, his performances over the last 3 years. You stop and you think, the guy hasn't really missed much football at all, and he's played for England during the off season. He must be shattered, and he's still putting in a shift. So everyone at Coney loves him. Everyone at Arsenal loves him. The fans love him, and fans do appreciate him up and down the country. And to step up and do what he did for England, huge. But again, I think there's, you previously touched on Saliba, and I actually think fans have a renewed understanding about Arsenal's young talent because, you know, we know that we have a world-class defender in Saliba, and the fact that they've seen what he can do down at Marseille, so they know we've got to lift him up, we've got to be behind him, and we're kicking every ball with Saliba right now, and it's refreshing to see the way how they reacted to him yesterday. But what I'm trying to say is, I think Arsenal fans are so astute now of the talent that we actually have, and they're getting behind the team. They're getting them behind the team in a different way than previous teams who have had younger players, and it's just refreshing to see.
It is, and I didn't realize Tony was here. Oh, sorry, I was trying to put him in the stream and
What's
then
going on,
take
T?
him out.
Hey, how you doing, guys?
Not
Sorry,
too bad.
mate.
We're having a wonderful conversation. I don't know whether you've been listening, but I'll get your. Have you been listening?
Not yet, no.
Okay, so I'll get your opinion on what we were talking about. We're just covering different talking points and aspects of what we liked about the All or Nothing series, and we've talked about Tierney's mental health. We've talked about Saka's mental health, and we've talked about how Josh has become more of a presence in the club and how that's affected the chain of command. And the money's coming and everything here, but we've seen how Josh has actually acted like an owner and actually like he cares, and how that's just transformed us into an ambitious club. We are an ambitious club. I can't believe I'm actually saying those words. Arsenal are ambitious. It makes me feel proud to say that. But just to cover a few of these talking points, Tony, what's your opinion on the likes of Saka, what he gone through, the love and the care that he got after the disaster of the missed penalty, Tierney having 2 or 3 of his friends committing suicide, and how it's changed him in terms of mental health. We did also talk about Saliba's mental health and the support he got yesterday. After he had all the troubles, his mum died and everything else. And yesterday, the own goal, so many things could have gone wrong. And the fans stepped in and took care of him. What's your thoughts as a bubble, as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, I'm impressed by it, but I kind of expect it of every club, every organization. We live in a world today where mental health is so clear, that pastoral care is a key part of every organization and should be. If it isn't, we know it doesn't always apply to all industries. It doesn't apply to all jobs, but I work in the education sector. It's very important for both teachers and students. I also work with a charity outside which deals with the mental health of children and the parents. So I do a lot of coaching with parents. I do the coaching and behavioural work with the kids. So it's not unusual for me to see that kind of wraparound care in a professional environment, which Arsenal is. And obviously, it's nice to see it in action and working the way it's supposed to work. There are lots of things that we don't see in football, where players have to adjust and deal with certain issues. We don't get privy to seeing what happens when a player comes from an international country and has to spend 6 months in a hotel room. Yeah. I've been lucky in my life. I've been around that environment. I've spent loads of times with players in hotel rooms. I've had great players as well. My great aunt tells me famously all the time about how I took Patrick Vieira to her house one time, and he was just getting acclimatized to London. I was like, you know what? I need to go from, I think it was in Crystal Palace, and we was going somewhere else. And I said, let's go drop at my auntie's. And so I took Anelka and Vieira to my aunt's. And, we were sat in the lounge and she was just having fun and games and laughing with the two of them. And it was like, you know what? That was me just giving my family to someone who was new to the country, was trying to get used to it and acclimatize to what London was all about. And trust me, London can be brutal.
Yeah.
You know, it can be brutal. So, you know, for some players, it's a dream. For other players, it's a nightmare, especially if you're an introvert. So, yeah, you know, it's definitely something that I appreciate, that the club are able to give that great support, that wraparound care. I love the way the manager interacts with his players. You know, I love the people behind the scenes, you know, the one-to-one coaching that they get. I just seen that comment, Apollo, can I have your autograph?
I was going to say that earlier on. That's what you need to sign. You need to get your signatures right, man. Get up some paper, hand it out, some 101 paper, and just sign it, man, or your photo. You know?
Cheers, Mr. Arsenal Podcast. Big shout out to you,
yeah,
my friend.
Carlos Cuesta, that's the guy. You know, that's great. That's absolutely fantastic. And, you know, I kind of felt that, you know, back in them days, obviously the players were closer to the fans, and obviously I was privy to be able to be around, live close to, spend lots of time in the Anelka household, spent lots of time in the Vieira household. You know, I went on holiday with the Anelkas. I literally lived in their family house for, you know, both in France and in Guadeloupe, in Martinique. So I'm privy to, you know, lots of stories and lots of great times in and around players. And I remember everyone criticized Anelka and said, you know, oh, he's a rat for what he's done. And nobody really knew the kid except me, you know, and a few others, because I was able to see what that kid was about day to day, you know, when he just chilled at home, when he was out with friends, you know, and there was not a nicer guy.
Yeah, and that's why I like the Netflix show where it shows you him being misunderstood. And me and you have talked about that for quite a bit. Kuke saying Arteta's reaction losing to the FA Cup against Forest. Oh, wow.
The right reaction, man.
That was brutal.
You know, sometimes you gotta keep it real. I mean, sometimes we're on a podcast and Arsenal fans don't like us being real with certain players' performances.
Yeah.
Well, that game, not mixing words, man. You have to let them know. I walk out of the room and let them know. You know what? Don't make me raise up.
Also the other example of that was when there was a game when Aaron Ramsdale got so vexed because they conceded a goal at the end.
Yeah, I remember. He was livid. Yeah, it came in. And we won the game, but he came in just like, I was like, right, this is your level, bro.
I loved that energy. I was so pleased to see that.
Yeah, that's your level.
It was just like Jens Lehmann.
Yeah.
Lehmann was like that. People used to think, you know, he didn't like conceding goals.
Yeah.
Simple. You know, extra time and in injury time and all that foolishness, and you're giving away sloppy goals and nah. That's standards. That's why I love that.
Kuke says the last episode though is going to be brutal. That defeat to Newcastle away, well, we ain't got there yet because it's not going to come out till this week. Alex says also the club has designated development coach who speaks to the players on a one-to-one basis. Yeah, they showed quite a bit of that, and I thought that was interesting as well because the one thing, and again, I'm talking to all of you managers and leaders out there in the business world and in the sporting world, when we have to deal with staff, you have to sing from the same hymn sheet because you can't have one message. You know, as we say in the business world, shit rolls downhill, and that could be a positive or a negative. But at the same time, you've got to be on the same page. And it was good to see the message coming from Edu and the message coming from Josh, the calmness. And let's go from the top. The way Josh talks to Edu and Vinay, the way that Edu talks to Arteta, the way Arteta talks to Albert Headphones and the coaching staff and Carlos. I just loved the whole synergy because each and every single one of them, guys, had our young players' hearts and minds, you know, at their disposal to empower. That's what it was. And you can see, look, our players have had some shitty moments. Our players have had times where they've let us down. But while we've been here giving them 4 out of 10s and critiquing them and everything, those guys have been at London Coney empowering them and, putting their arms over the shoulder and telling them how great they are, and the bit where Arteta had drawn, he was sort of, the way how Arteta was striving to inspire his team during that kind of mediocre season as well. And, you could see how he was dealing with everything. He tells the players that when he was a child, he had Spain's first open heart surgery. And that, that there's a parallel between high performance and, he's talking about the doctors that saved his life and things like that. And it really showed the team that you can't be successful unless you are being a high performance in terms of productivity on that team.
On the team.
If you're not running, we'll always hear him shouting, forward, 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 forward. That's the way you play. That's the way you think. That's the way that react. Everything is bang, 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 because that's what it takes to be winners. Winners are not the people who are and ahhing and walking and not putting enough effort in. That, for a winner, that don't work. Park it, put it to the side, ain't going to work. If that's what you're bringing to the team, then you're not going to play. And I'm the biggest Pepe fan, but I think some of these things I'm now starting to see from All or Nothing, and they haven't featured Pepe a lot in the series, but I'm starting to see that the level of expectations is so high that you appreciate when you see a Martinelli. Yeah? Look at Martinelli right now. You appreciate when you see something like that because you know what it's taken for him to jump and reach that journey. And some of the players like Maitland-Niles and Pepe haven't made that jump. And with all the talent in the world, it just takes something extra to be a winner, to be a champion, to be a leader, to be accountable. Takes something different. It takes more than talent. And I think that's what the show is telling me about the level that Arteta is set.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I don't know if we will see more of Pepe in the next episodes coming, but, it just seems that we see one side of the equation where they put all that wraparound care and there's lots of talking and the people who are working with the personalities of certain players. And there are other players who kind of like are just fringe members of the squad that just aren't getting a look in on and I don't know the reason why, but the Pepe dynamic to me seems like the one that I'm most curious to find out what is going on with that kid. Why is he not getting all that wraparound care?
So I want to say something about somebody who we've not really talked about and discussed. And that's somebody who has been dropped from the team, who doesn't start for this team, who has been productive. And it may sound like to you guys I'm talking about Pepe, but I'm not. I'm talking about Emile Smith-Rowe. And you see instances where Smith-Rowe has walked into a room and he's, given this sort of talk by Carlos. And actually it's Albert headphones. It's Albert. And Albert sort of sets this template for him. And Emile looks at him like he doesn't even know what's going on, like he doesn't know how to react. And that's just like, when I saw that, I thought, I've been in situations like that as a manager where a player or a member of staff hasn't met my expectations. And I've had the conversation with him as to say, look, these are my standards. This is what I expect you to do. And I'm almost giving them a KPI, a business sheet of what they've got to achieve. So this is what I want you to do in terms of blah, blah, blah. This is my expectations that I want you to hit this month. And then if you do that, then you'll be able to achieve and we're all good and you'll earn tons of money, and I'll praise you and all of these things. And I've had that look from a person where it's like it hasn't gone in. And when I saw that scene with Smith-Rowe, that's exactly what I looked at. I was like, there's Smith-Rowe this is a parallel to like Mourinho and Dele Alli, where Mourinho, in the wrong way, is trying to get a reaction out of Dele Alli and doesn't. But our guys are trying to do this with Smith Rowe, and it shows you the sort of standards and the care and the very difficult conversations that they're having to have with these very, very young players. And so when I saw that scene, I then started to move around to the Pepes, to the Nketiahs, and someone's left a message here as well. Kuke said there's a very clear preference for a specific group of players who demonstrate certain attributes and principles like Nketiah. That is bang on. That is absolutely bang on. Then he says, and those outside of it, really don't like Pepe. And I think that this is something which is trying to key on to what I'm talking about. Arteta is building a group of champions, and it seems like some guys are falling off the ladder. And in order for them to get back on it, they're going to have to grow. And the team are willing to allow those players to grow. They're not saying, go away, we don't want you, you're not good enough. They're actively trying to sort of grow these players. And we've seen Nketiah come to the fore. We've seen Martinelli come to the fore. But not everybody is going to be able to do it. Does that make sense?
But do you think, in regards to Smith Rowe, at the point when that conversation was happening, what month was that? Was it towards Christmas?
No, it would have been after Christmas, because he had 10 goals before Christmas, didn't he? And then he only scored one for the latter half of the season.
So, and even at that point, he was still probably our top goal scorer.
Yeah, yes.
And he was still performing. So he's probably thinking what he's doing on the pitch and what they're saying is like, he's wondering, well, how much more can I give? And I'm being productive, where us as fans, match days commentaries, we're still expecting him to be doing more. But I think he's just not there as a player to recognize what he's been asked, that little bit more what he's been asked for. So
there's two things there. First of all, you said that he was being productive. Now, he was being Pepe productive, like he was coming on and scoring goals, but yes. He wasn't starting in those games. It was Martinelli starting in those games. So while he was coming on the sub and producing goals, which I agree with you he wasn't actively a starter. It was still Martinelli. So, and I think that's probably what he was. It looked like it was like, well, what more do I have to do? Because I'm scoring, boss, I'm scoring. But whatever they're seeing in the makeup wasn't good enough for him to start. So I'm talking about taking responsibility for your actions and the way you play. And it requires the realization that you play a part in every single situation or experience, and therefore have a degree of responsibility over the outcomes for your consequences. And we go by practice. We go by what happens between Monday to Friday, which gets you on the pitch, on the team sheet. And that wasn't happening for him. He was not starting ahead of Martinelli. So, and I think, sorry, go on.
Yeah, and I think what we've got to keep in mind, where I know the intentions from Arteta and his team are in the right place, but that was Smith Rowe's first full season at Arsenal. Yeah. Let's put that into equation. His first full season, coming back from loan, and he's playing like that. It's like, it will come. He's got to get his fitness. I think he did the first thing right by scoring goals and showing enough glimpses that actually, we've got a player that we can mold. I think this season he's going to be a very tough one for him, because to hit the same heights as what he did last year, it would be great. Saka's done it. He's progressed each season. So that's the benchmark for Smith Rowe to get there. Whether we get there or not, we don't know. But we hope. He's got the attributes. But I think us looking at it and thinking, well, you know what? That's his first full season.
And again, the parallels that I'm drawing, and it doesn't have to, you guys might have your own opinion. But it really meant a lot for me, because I've been in those scenarios as a teacher, as a leader, as a manager, and rather than looking for someone else or something else to blame, you must accept that you are in charge of what's going on as an individual. And in order for these kind of TV series and shows to work, you kind of need heartfelt moments like this, you know, big characters who are excelling, characters who are failing to drive the narrative drama. And we've got that in this series. And for me, one of the biggest moments was in episode 3 when they lost 4-0 to Liverpool. And Arteta clearly states that when he's at fault, he has no problems in taking responsibility. You know, as a leader, you know, he's taken that pain away from the kids, from the team, in order to allow them to move on. Because if the team are in this constant state of you know, where they're feeling regret, remorseful, they're feeling they're down on their luck because they've just got battered 4-0. They've just got absolutely humiliated. If they're down in the dumps and allow themselves to drop into the sinkhole, then it could take weeks for them to come out of it. But they didn't. Arteta went straight in there, one message, sucked all that energy out of the room into himself and moved on. And you could see the players were just like, okay, all right, let's get on with it. And I didn't know. I mean, I'm just like you guys, I'm seeing these things for the first time, and it's just tremendous to me how he's able to do that. And whether that's been installed in him from day one or whether it was something he picked up from Pep or anything, I can't answer that question. I don't know. But what I do know is, you know, Iniesta talked about this last season when he said, no, as a 16-year-old, you know, in the academy, Arteta was doing this to me, Messi, and everybody else. He was the one that was talking to the players, translating to the manager, and he was being a leader. It's been on the books for decades that this guy was going to be a manager. The players all knew it. There's actually a show, a documentary about Arteta, the rise of Arteta, which is out on YouTube now. I think we've all seen it. But in that show, you hear Iniesta and Xavi and Messi all talking about Arteta being a leader. And I go back to 3 years ago, when Pep was having an interview, and I think it was the guy from TalkSport. What's his name? I can't remember. Something Watt or John Watt or something like that. And he's interviewing Pep Guardiola, and he says to Pep, absolutely fantastic. He goes, what do you think that Arteta can bring to Arsenal, you know, that you've taught him? And Pep said to him, what makes you think that I taught Mikel Arteta anything? And he said, I actually learned a lot from Mikel. And when Pep said that, I sat back, and that's when I really, you guys know I'm Arteta in, right? That's when I really started to, I was like, what? And then Leroy Sané, Raheem Sterling, you know, Mahrez, De Bruyne, them guys were saying, Mikel's brought levels to my game. When I started hearing all that, I was like, this guy's ready. This guy's ready.
I think for me, the transparency that Arteta showed in his team talk for Liverpool and his preparations, for me, made me understand, well, actually, I remember games when I played football and I kind of tanked or I hid. But to go to Anfield, some Arsenal fans were privileged to go to Anfield and sit in the Arsenal end. I tip your hat to you guys. I've grown up with my brothers, and I've had to go and sit in the Liverpool end at Anfield, watch Arsenal-Liverpool, and us getting battered. So to understand what it's like to go up against Liverpool at home is huge. So when he turns around after that game and says, you know what, mistakes I made, I could probably understand and appreciate the transparency where how he probably riled up the fans with the antics with Klopp and so forth, changed the narrative of the game because we were playing very well in that first half. And I think that it's these things where we can understand, well, actually, yes, at Barcelona, it was very astute and very knowledgeable, but it's to share those nuggets that, you know what, I hid at Anfield and it still pains me to this day. And you know what, I don't want you guys to hide. It's getting those guys to, you know what, seize this opportunity. And those are the things that I liked from that episode, because you know what, he's not just I know there's a narrative that's branded around that he's a dictator and so forth, but you know what? He's also passionate, deeply passionate, wants to win.
And you know, the whole manager persona is being a leader of men. When I talk to people who I work with in the business world, I always say to them, you know, a good manager is a leader of men. You can either have a great team and a bad manager and good results, or you can have a good manager and a bad team, and that will bring good results. And so there's very different ways of doing things. And Arteta likes to talk and think outside the box. We see him use team talks, you know, training. The documentary shows him using whiteboards for team talks and drawing images, you know, writing words to illustrate points and try to underline the point he's making. These things, guys, are very clear and precise when you're trying to get a message across. And I've seen locker rooms with team talks from managers, and you always get the back and forth and the players being emotional and talking out. And I can tell you one thing, guys, we haven't heard a sound from a single Arsenal player. There is not once in the documentary when Arteta's talking that you see a player make a sound or make a comment. This is happening for two reasons. One, because they respect the man and every single word he says. And two, it's because the point Arteta's making is just. So they can't even combat it. You know, when someone throws you an argument and you're like, yeah, you know, I'm going to push back on this one, boss. They're not even pushing back. And it just goes to, sorry, Tony, you're on mute.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you think they may have edited certain bits out? Because we all know that the life in the training environment is not all rosy. You know, I know bust-ups happen, and they happen frequently. I know there are arguments between players and players and players and coaches and side staff and players. That happens. You know, we've seen some occasions where we get privy to see fisticuffs between players. You know, so far what we've seen, everyone is very respectful. Everyone is very orderly. And by the way, on Arteta's drawing, I don't know if that guy's been coached, but he draws superbly. His drawings,
just like that, isn't it?
you know, as a manager myself, you know, I used to have to do those drawings. It ain't easy.
No, it's not easy. It's not easy. But to your point, two things there. First of all, you know, when he draws and communicates, he talks about his fears. So this isn't a man who's trying to hide himself. Arteta puts himself out there. His fears are very clear among his players. His disappointments, his, you know, things that has failed him in life, things he's passionate about, things he's grateful for. And the players, when he told them that he was grateful for them and he appreciates them every day of his life that he wakes up, it made the players feel, it made their pain go away. It made them feel valued. And this allows the young players to play free of any of those fears. The answer to your question in terms of do I think that they've hidden anything is more of a, I'm gonna answer that like a politician. So there's no yes or no. But I will say this. Those players who have done that are no longer here.
Yeah. I mean, you've got to have that volatility about you. You know, I can imagine that there are certain players who are really strong characters, and I imagine other players are really quite introverted. It's interesting.
Aubameyang, Guendouzi.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I've been, as you know, my cousin's been in the training squad with the New York Giants, and I've watched every practice, every minute of every practice which is coming up. I watch it. You know, they're not showing everything. But interestingly, last week, there was a famous scene at the Miami Dolphins, interesting. Their training footage, as you know, I'm a Miami Dolphins fan, just like Tony, where two players went properly at it on the pitch, and one player ended up getting dragged off the pitch, almost out cold. And you know that happens. You know that happens in football. It happens in other sports. You know, there's gonna be clashes, and obviously they professionally dealt with the Aubameyang situation. But what we didn't see was the histrionics. Whereas I'm pretty certain there would have been some, some shouting. You know, if an employee rather isn't adhering to minimum standards, you have a word, you have a quiet word. Then the next time they do it, you have a little bit louder word. It gets to a point where you have to shout.
Yeah.
You can't keep quiet and just keep saying, "Oh, well, blah, 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 blah. I'm really disappointed in your performance," and blah blah. No, you rotted out harder.
Yeah, that's right. And to see how that played out, Vincey, I'm not cutting you out. You can come in anytime you want. To see how that played out, you had the voice of one of the most experienced senior members in the team, which was Rob Holding. The players in the canteen would sit around Rob Holding to find out what's going on, just like members of staff would at your workplace. And Rob Holding would just set it straight. Yeah, he would just tell them straight. You take responsibility for your actions because you have a deep sense of pride in what you do. And as a manager, myself, that means a lot to me. And as Rob Holding, who has captained the side and is known as a senior member, stop playing the blame game. Yeah, make time for self-reflection and take responsibility. And that's the theme for me. The theme of this series is taking responsibility and having accountability for every single one of your actions, which allows your young players to go in and express themselves. And I never knew Arteta was a humble man like that. And he's always said it. He said, I'll ask for one or two things. I don't ask for much. But I expect, the standards. And he keeps saying, this is Arsenal Football Club. We have standards here. And I love that because he knows Arsenal. We talk about Tony Adams, we talk about Ian Wright, we talk about Tierney and all these other, we talk about all them players. They know the club, they know the history, Ray Parlour, blah, 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 blah. But Arteta has sat down and had a glass of wine with Arsene Wenger many, many, many times before. Wenger stated in his book that he often talks to Arteta every week. So there is an underlying understanding that Arteta very, very much knows what Arsenal is all about as a brand. And he seems to be very fair in what he's asking for from the team and the support level he's willing to give them. And he's making it clear it's a two-way street. If I give you this, then I expect to get that from you. And that is the give and take between manager and player or manager and staff, whether you're talking about the business world. It brings solidarity and defiance to the group because it brings the togetherness and the solidarity, but defiance if you screw up. If you mess up, I have only asked you a few things. If you screw me, you're gone. And that level is almost frightening. And there's a fine line, guys, to where you have players who are absolutely shitting themselves to cross this manager to respecting him. And I think that's what we're getting right with this series. Vincey?
No, I wasn't going to say nothing. I'll just listen to you.
I think one of the things that a dynamic which hasn't again been crossed is the age of the manager. Everything you said is accurate. He commands respect. He commands authority. He's very authoritarian. You and I know, as managers ourselves, that there are differences with generations. And I think the closer you are, the more respect you have for that person. So the person I think has the most respect for him is Mohamed Elneny.
Yeah.
Because Mohamed, they play together. Yeah. And they're close in terms of age. I don't think there's a guy that can feel and breathe and understand Arteta more than Mohamed Elneny. You've got young players coming up now who really are of a new generation, and the question will be, do they have that same respect? So far, what one of the main things that you're looking for with players, and I think this was mentioned in the documentary, is when you're assessing a player to come to the club, is the personality of the player. Are they able to gel? Are they able to take instruction? Do they work well under pressure? And all these things have to be accounted for before you bring a player into the club. But more and more, we're looking at the dynamics between the players and the manager, and it looks comfy. But I think that's hiding some of the potential players who are not seeing eye to eye with the manager. And I'm sure there must be.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of Arteta's mood. If you sit back and analyze his mood, he is frustrated because the team finished 8th. He knows his job's on the line, and that brings certain pressures, some of them not good. And I know, as a manager, when the pressure's on, you tend to do things you don't want to do because you start looking desperate. But what I liked is, there's a moment that you see Edu talking to Albert Headphones, and they're having lunch in the canteen, and they're analysing Arteta's change of mood, and they're nudging each other saying, look at him, he's enjoying this. And it just goes to show you that the players are buying in and the culture is changing. And because of that, Arteta's starting to enjoy the role even more. And I really took a lot from that because I've lived through that. I could relate. But I'm just enjoying the insight so much. I really am.
I think the key thing is, yes, you're going to have the reaction from the players. Yes, the media has been quite tough based on how we've been playing and some of the results that we were getting. But I think what's pleased Arteta more is that the fans' reaction towards him has changed. And that's by how the team's playing and the results. When we get those things, the fans are going to be happy. He knows there's a connection back with the fans that's been lost. And that's the key thing for us, for the team to build. So, yeah, I can understand how his mood will change. I mean, I don't see Arteta as an egotistical type of player. Manager. He wasn't a player in that regard. But, to do the stuff that you need to do at Arsenal, non-negotiables. You do that, you get a result. The fans demand these things. We haven't spoken today about the team talk for the North London derby, but it was a masterstroke because he got somebody. Because sometimes players could tune out. Yeah, it's a North London derby. Yes, well-being officer, like it. North London derby, players could tune out from some of his conversation. You know what he does? You get somebody to show you a different level of passion for you to connect with the fans in the stadium. Because all of us, you see the comments week before. We are not messing about. Yeah, we don't want. If we had to take a draw, we'll take a draw. But we want to win every single North London derby, and the players have to understand what we demand from them. So naturally, he will change when there's now a connection now with the fans and the players, and that has developed. You can see that change that has developed from episode to episode.
Alex says, would you say Arteta is building some at Arsenal, and do you see the process now, Apollo, but it won't mean anything if Arsenal win nothing? There's two things there. I've bought into the process a long time ago, and for the reasons I talked about earlier on, just because of the makeup of the man. I'm a person that when Wenger left, I wanted Jurgen Klopp. And I wanted Jurgen Klopp for exactly the same reasons why I support Arteta. because I just see a leader of men, and I see somebody who wants to win so badly that they're willing to throw themselves in front of the train to do it. And when you have somebody who's willing to die for his men, when you have a leader like that, you will always excel. Now, the second question is a little bit more different. You know, it won't mean anything if Arsenal win nothing. Yeah, unfortunately, that's the world we live in, where the likes of Man City are so good. You can imagine how good Liverpool is, and yet Jurgen Klopp has only won one title in the last 5 years because City have won 4 of them. Won 4 out of the last 5 years. So you have to be exceptional to be the best. And even when you're the best, Alex, guess what? It's still not good enough because Man City have never won the Champions League. So I'm not going to ever judge this team on winning a title, because if they do, I would be ecstatic. I'd be over the moon. I would just be so over the moon. But I'm not going to outrightly expect it. I expect them to challenge and make moves for it, which is what I believe that they're doing now. I mean, this team is so good right now. I believe where Chelsea is, I think Arsenal are better than Chelsea. I hope they're better than Spurs and we finish above them this season. But are they at Liverpool and Man City standard? I don't think so at this point in time. So it's, you know, being a good team is great, fantastic. Being exceptional is still not enough in the eyes of Pep Guardiola, because even with 4 titles in 5 years, he still can't win the Champions League. So I'm never gonna, you know, these guys know me, Vincey, Tony, they've known me long enough to know that I will never give myself any false precedences. But what I will do is I will support and be up for it and hope that we'll be able to achieve at that level. I just want to be a part of the discussion. And then when you're up there, then you've got a chance to win. Sorry, Vincey?
Yeah, I was just going to just say, and this is true transparency and honesty in regards to what Alex was just saying. Now, I believe in the process. The reason why I believe in the process is because I can see the acquisitions and how we're moving the ball make sense. I could not see when we gave the contract to Aubameyang and the way how we were playing football. That for me was probably my worst football season as an Arsenal fan, watching us move the ball. I hated it. I couldn't understand it. And it, as a striker, ex-striker for me, it hurt me seeing a prolific goal scorer play in that position. And I can see, personally, I can see his enthusiasm drain as a result of how he was playing. But now I understand the process, because he's gone out and bought players to fit a system and to fit a style of football. So, you know, there was a lot of banter around, you know, buy into the process, trust the process. The process can only be when you actually start to do things in a way that it makes sense and it's fluidity. And you see that now where, you know, we've got our wingers interject. You can see the flow of football and quality chances. Quality chances that Arsenal now in front of goal and we're now capitalizing. 2 seasons ago, that wasn't happening. So yeah, I believe in the process now. I've been a long advocate of, it's not a case of us winning, but how we move the ball is going to give us a better opportunity to win. And we're on that road. So that's my answer to what Alex was saying.
Cool Case says, Aubameyang situation I've always been behind. I understand how much poor ethics affects a team, and you don't have to, you know, you don't have everyone on board committed to the same cause. 18 saying, I love listening to you guys, such intelligent people making great points. I think there was always something bad going on with Aubameyang, and the fact that I've only talked about 2 or 3 instances, and then Arteta lets you know that there's a whole dossier that he's built on this guy. And I've drawn the line. I wouldn't have been able to have someone like Aubameyang play for me or work for me, because my standards is such. If I've got a guy who's just coming in late all the time and he's my leader, it just sets a bad precedent. And you just can't have that in a good business or a good football team. And those things for me from day one, as much as I love the player and always have, and I've always supported him and everything, from those things happen, goodbye, try and do that somewhere else, because no team in the upper echelon of football would accept that kind of level of poor ethics and punctuality, and it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And we've seen some teams try and carry that, try and carry those poor actions. I think Vincey got upset the other day for a joke because I called him a Balotelli. I was playing around. But what But what I was basically trying to say is that when you're carrying those things around, and we've known it for a long time, Tuchel said at Dortmund that he was doing the same thing, but he just allowed it because he scored goals. Tuchel said the guy's always had a punctuality problem. He's that guy driving around in a Lamborghini, loves the one time in the training room in All or Nothing, he turned up in a golden tracksuit. And it was just like, when I saw that, I just thought, this is a bit too much. Not saying he's a show off or not saying whatever and blah, blah, blah. He's just trying to live that life, live that money life. And there's a time and a place for it. In other words, Lewis Hamilton is the epitome of professionalism. He never turns up to a Formula One track in a golden, tracksuit and all of those things. He just turns up and does his job and is humble, and he always thanks his team, and then he just gets his job done and quietly just goes home.
Can I address?
Aubameyang is flamboyant. That's his personality. We see him laughing, joking, dancing in the, doing that. That's just who he is, and you can't hide that. But as a leader, there are certain things that you need to do in order to get your team to the next level. And we just keep making these dumb, stupid decisions, putting these captains in place that are just always letting us down because they're not leaders. Sorry, go on, Tony.
Yeah, no, I was going to say about the Aubameyang captaincy. I mean, he just never at any point in any game did you ever say, there's a guy who's captain material. Now, yeah, he could have scored you winning goals. But none of them times would you ever turn around and go, that's a captain. He pulled up everybody by their shirt tails and dragged this team over across the field, across the line. It baffles me. However, I must say, contrary to maybe your viewpoint of this particular player, I can see why Granit Xhaka has been picked as a captain, because he's very vocal. And, I know he's ridiculed for his technical ability as a player, but I think he does actually offer something that very few players can offer in terms of leadership skills. And I think when we ask the question, well, why did Wenger pick him? And then why did Emery pick him? And then why did this player pick him? And he's always been there. I can see the reasons why. And only now, because of All or Nothing, do you see behind the scenes and you think, yeah, he was wrong to do what he did with the fans, and he's had to come through certain adversity, but there is enough material that I can see why he should have been captain.
Yeah, when we lost it. Sorry,
on the back of what you're just saying, I'm hoping that this is the biggest transition in the stands, where we actually recognize that, we've given this guy some stick, yeah, and he's still there, motivating the players and putting in performances. So I'm just hoping, we can find a way where, we can actually look at Granit in a different way and respect his professionalism, because it's off the charts.
Yeah, when we lost to Newcastle 2-0, all the fans was on Arteta. I remember doing the stream here with you guys. Everybody was on Arteta's back. Xhaka came in after the game on the interview and said none of the players listened to a damn word the manager said. and it pretty much told you everything that you needed to know at that point. Alex says, completely understand Vincey, but if the process does not yield any honours, trophies, questions will be asked. With 400 million spent in a results-based sport, will require success. That's very true. You know, but again, our last trophy was just 2 years ago, FA Cup.
I think that, just on that point, Apollo, I think that FA Cup, you know, Arsenal fans very quickly forget that in his first season he won the FA Cup.
Yeah.
And yes, the season following wasn't what we wanted, and the end position in the league is not what we wanted. But he did win a trophy in his very first season, which is often overlooked and doesn't get the credit that it deserves, because, you know, it's not like Liverpool and Man City. We totally avoided those teams getting to the final.
Yeah, we beat
Chelsea.
them. Yeah,
exactly.
We beat them to get
So,
the honours. And I guess, you know, fans, we can't understate how tremendously hard it is to achieve and win in this game and sport right now. It is the hardest thing, and it's only getting harder because I have one word which guides my love and passion in sports, and the word is parity. Parity means, you know, that there's a sense of balance that everybody has a chance to achieve. And it's rife in the NFL and the NBA. You have no idea who's going to win the Super Bowl. Every year you have no idea who's going to win the NBA championship. But in the Premier League, you pretty much have a good idea. And that's because the rich continue to spend and the poor continue to struggle and hold it down. But over the years, there's been, you know, the money, the Sky deal has brought a brand new wealth to the league. And while Italian leagues, I heard some of them arguing about last week, I heard some of them arguing about how, you know, we should lose our Champions League spot and things like that, or, you know, certain things should happen in the UK because of the Sky money. When you've got a team like Fulham making more money than Juventus, I think that's the point that they were trying to make. And you know, fair enough, it is. But that's nothing to do with us. That's to do with the TV companies in Italy, or it's to do with the TV companies in Spain. Sorry, guys. Sorry about that.
That was me. Sorry.
So, you know, to each their own. We have structured a deal that we have at Sky, and it's working for us. And that's what other countries have to do. And their country's got nothing to do with us at all. Big shout out to Jerome. Jerome, big up you as well, my brother. Big shout out to you, Stan. You guys have missed quite a bit of really strong, healthy discussion. So you might want to rewind the stream and pick it up when we started. But overall, guys, I think we've really covered a lot of subjects. We've covered what's in our hearts and our understanding. The show has been engaging with plenty of interesting subplots. You know, to just keep you coming back. It's very satisfying for the fans because it's just a never seen inside look of the team's activities, the ideas behind the performances on the pitch and how the results impact the team, and that synergy between the manager, the front office owners and the directors as well. And notice, as I said, we've seen very little of Stan Kroenke. Why? Because he has nothing to do with the running of this team. He is a shareholder of KSE, and that's his title as a chairman. But the actual director and the person who runs this club is Josh Kroenke, and I've been saying that for 3 years. And some fans still haven't managed to grasp that information. Yeah, and I hope the show shows you exactly how that works. Jerome says that he'll catch the stream from the beginning. Jerome also says Arteta catches a lot of harsh criticism. Alex Ferguson I totally agree. And this is the reason why, you know, me and Bertram have always been at odds with Arteta. And, you know, you hear fans call him a dictator and all of these things. And guys, look, it can't be far from the truth. The truth is, regardless what we say and regardless what our opinions are, the key aspect is if a manager is a good manager, your players will follow you into battle. And those guys who play for him love him. They love him and they respect him because of what he's been able to do with the likes of Ozil, the likes of Aubameyang. They respect him. That commands respect. And I think that that's the biggest thing that the fans have taken from this series now. They really have. You know, Arteta kind of asks you, you know, what do you really want in life? You know, the big part of taking responsibility for your life is knowing what kind of life you want to lead. And in the show, we see life lessons. We see football translated to life. And it's uplifting these young men, these young sportsmen, the youngest team in the league. It's uplifting them. And you've got players on board like Zinchenko and Gabriel Jesus, who he has trained and worked with. So if this guy is that bad of a coach, of a manager, of a leader of men, why on earth would these 4-time Premier League winners want to come and play for him? It doesn't make sense. What makes sense is that they know exactly what they're getting into and they want to be a part of the program. And I respect both of those players for that. I really do. You just look at Martinelli. You talk about man management and development. Look at Martinelli and how far he has come over the last few seasons. Arteta would be really proud of that. And, you know, but the whole coaching staff is asking these questions. It's not just about Arteta, guys. We've found Carlos, Albert Headphones. We have a deeper connection into our whole philosophy of supporting young, talented men and getting the best out of them. So it's not just about Arteta. The big thing is, I know, and that would be the main talking point, but the overarching, you know, the equality is important in every relationship. So accepting responsibility is crucial to maintaining these bonds. And they just follow through with all these promises and commitments. The front office and the training staff are just committed to these young players. They're invested and they're getting the best out of these men. And these men are growing forward and meeting the challenges of a young, aspiring sports star. And the scary thing, guys, is these guys are like, you know, Saliba 21, 22, Nketiah, 23, Gabriel, Ben White. And all these guys are young, super young. They're not even in their prime. They're not even in their prime. And look, man, the show shows us that you're not perfect and you will make mistakes. It shows us that. But while it's important, but while this is happening, it's important for you to own your mistakes. Own it. Yeah? And it's equally important for you to forgive yourself for them as well. And I really, 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 really love what Arteta is doing with these young men. Vincey?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just sitting here thinking about the situation on transfer deadline day, and I'm looking and I'm thinking, yeah, you know, hats off to Arteta. For me, I think what All or Nothing has shown us is that Arteta has come in. He's got the authority to make bold decisions. He's got backing of Josh, Edu, and Vinay. But Arteta made a decision in regards to the non-negotiables with Aubameyang. But the club were on a different path because they initially wanted, like most fans, as we said, as you mentioned on All or Nothing, we suggesting, you know, sit down. Okay, he's been training on his own. Now we have to deal with it because he's a goal scorer. He's got years left on his contract. We've got to do something. But for me, it was very concerning that my club on transfer deadline day were just sitting and waiting and not dealing with the situation, or not bold enough to, okay, do you know what? If we're going to move on Aubameyang and Arteta does not want him back in the fold, cancel his contract. Pull the trigger, do it. And it was painful to watch. It's like right up to the 11:59, They got it 11:59. That was painful to watch my club in that situation to do something when the manager's already said, you know what, he's not going to be part of my team. And I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, okay, what have we learned from this Arsenal in this situation? What are we going to be in sync with Arteta to make these things and make these decisions quicker? Because you stop and you think, what would have happened if that didn't go through? And we shouldn't be in that situation if the managers turned around and said, you know what, this player is no longer, as we all said, there's many parts to Arsenal Football Club right now. It's not just Arteta. The managers turned around and said, he's no longer in my plans. He's training on his own. Okay. Make a decision now. And that for me was painful to watch. Not from an Arteta perspective, but from the board levelers to say, okay, how are we now going to deal with this situation?
On the series, we'll probably talk about it again because we've got 3 more episodes left. Unfortunately, it doesn't end well. But yeah, if you want to talk about it again, we can do that, revisit what the end of it is. But I think this podcast is important because we've learned a lot, and we've embraced the understanding of what it actually means to us. And regardless of what happens in the next 3 episodes, it ain't really going to change the perception of what it's like to Arsenal fans.
As you said, we know how it ends, and it's going to be interesting to see the dynamic of some of those things that we've talked about in terms of the relationships between players and staff and manager, etc., in the most difficult times when things are not going right. I'm intrigued to see who stands up and who's being counted amongst the players at particular points. I'm also intrigued to see will we be seeing any more of some of the characters who ain't getting any airtime at the moment, aka Pepe, Thomas Partey, even like Tomiyasu, very quiet kid. I'm sure he is quiet anyway, but would love to see a little bit of him just open up about how he's acclimatized and how things have been for him, so on and so forth.
You know what I found as well? I mean, this is just really my last comment. And for those of you guys, I know the viewership has just jumped up a little bit. First of all, hit that like button on the video. Secondly, it's been a hell of a show today. And, why don't you go back and watch it from the beginning? Because there's a lot of stuff we talked about, which we've addressed. But the one thing that I want to say about this as well, the disparity between the Spurs all or nothing, when you see Jose Mourinho talking to Dele Alli and just basically trying to tell him how much of a disappointment he's been in his life. And and you see Jose blaming everybody else, blaming the fans, blaming the owners, blaming the players. And you wonder why the guy's never lasted no longer than 3 years at a club. And then you kind of see Arteta bringing everyone together and getting rid of those bad eggs. It's such a massive disparity. It really is. It's just like you'll find it much easier working with someone like Arteta to develop yourself, maintaining your happiness at a club, and the players are learning from that. These are life lessons. As I said, the accountability is my key word for tonight because it's crucial to having a good relationship with the people around you, as well as with yourself. If I'm working with you guys and I'm not getting things right and I'm owning up to it and I'm using that to fuel me to improve and be a better person, how do I look around my supporting cast, around my players and teammates? How must that look to somebody standing next to me? Would you want to go to war with me because I understand my flaws, I accept them, I'm responsible for them, and I'm allowing them to make me move on to be a better person? How much are you going to be invested in being my wingman and going to war with me than a person who messes up and doesn't quite care And so what? You know, that weren't me. That was you. You were supposed to go and get that guy. You blew the coverage. You never closed him down. You. Just finger pointing, blaming people all the time. This isn't like that, guys. Arsenal ain't doing that. That's not our football club.
I think it's great because he highlighted that in one situation where, you know what, if it's a bad pass, don't just, you know, sit there and just moan about the pass. Let's address the situation because the game's still going on. And that happens a lot during the games. And sometimes I remember when I used to play, it's like those things used to frustrate me. But to hear that in the way he relayed it, it's like, well, yeah, you know what, actually, we can move on. So sometimes good players have to exert more energy in those situations to get the team out of situations when a bad pass happens. There's no problem, but it was nice. I understood in that situation what he was trying to get, and yeah, you know, I think you can see the teams together. Subs are coming on, and they're running for each other. They're making spaces for each other. And that helps the tactics. That helps, and it should allow Arteta to be creative in his tactics. Because Tony touched on the fact that, you know, we forget he won his first trophy in his first season, but it's how he won it, and that for me was what I wanted to see him kick on in his next season. This season, I think we're going to see it because he's a tactical brain. And I don't want him to just be rigid in one formation because we have players who he can be flexible with. They're young and still perform. So I believe 100% in these kids. I believe in Arteta. I just want him to do it his way. He's got all the abilities to do it.
He's got all of his players. And, you know, when you're going up to Man City and you got Kolasinac as your option, it don't matter how good you are tactically, man. It ain't gonna happen. So
but Kolasinac still has to perform, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he still has to perform. Tony, you're on mute.
It's funny you mentioned that because I looked at. Sometimes I'm looking in the dressing room after a game, and you're thinking to yourself, how the hell did Kolasinac still stay and actually get on the pitch? And Pablo Mari and Maitland-Niles and this player and that player. And I'm looking around and thinking, bro, we really had these waste man in our teams at them time. No wonder we didn't succeed.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
That's why Emery failed. That's why Wenger failed. This has just been on a heavy decline year on year for quite a long time. And this team now from top to bottom is Arteta's team. And I have to put Edu in that because Edu's a big part of what's going on right now. Stan says, I'm glad Aubameyang took it upon himself to travel to Barcelona. Stan, did you see Edu's face when Richard Garlick told him that when Richard Garlick turned around to Edu and said, Aubameyang's in Barcelona? He says, what? What's he doing? What's he doing over there? I don't know.
Yeah, where should he be?
Oh my God, I can't believe that. The look on Eddie's face was priceless.
I mean, the sheer disrespect. You know, not only did you do it on a quiet thing, but you tweeted it. You know how disrespectful that is.
Yeah. And then
from that moment, it was like he's dead.
But didn't he also tweet he was going to visit his brother or something like that?
Someone said to me, what do I think of Aubameyang going to Chelsea? I said, listen, don't mention that man's name in my presence because he's dead food to me. I've lost all respect for that guy. Thank you for the little bit of service that you did. Thank you for the FA Cup. But you know what? As a human being, after seeing what I've seen, you're dead food, bro.
Yeah, that was wrong, man. You're just asking for trouble then. And it's funny because I didn't think they were going to put that in.
Oh,
I was surprised.
That was the killer moment, bro.
Yeah.
Oh,
that was money. God. The moment he did that, it's like, I swear Eddie just kissed his teeth. They must have muted that part out. But it's like
Barca shut it down. What was he doing?
And signing
as I said, He turned around and said he was, one of the cameras said, "What are you doing in Boston?" He goes, "I'm here visiting my brother." Your brother wasn't. Your brother weren't even in the country.
Oh, don't. Yeah, that was the killer moment. That was genius to the way that came out. That to me was like, yep, I'm done with that fella, mate.
Could you imagine what the phone call between him and Richard Garlick must have been?
Oh, mate.
Yeah, it's just unbelievable.
If that was me on one side of the phone, you couldn't have had enough beeps to cross out all the swear words I would have said at him. He would have been called I would have got my Jamaican voice out. You know when you get angry and you start calling out word.
Yeah, but see, that's the reason why Richard Garlick picked up the phone and called the lawyer, because this was gross misconduct.
Yeah,
and it's like you got to find out what's going to be the fallout before I draw my sword.
Yeah,
before I draw my sword, tell me if I'm liable, because I'm about to slice this man right now. This man's going to get cut.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that we can take dear from the show. But yeah, guys, listen, that's all I have to say. If you guys want to chime in with anything else,
I just want to tell you, there's a little something. You're probably wondering why I came in on another thing, but I don't know if you've noticed, but this just came on sale.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I saw. Yeah. Yeah, I saw on Twitter that some guy is starting to produce them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so I love it. When I saw that, I just thought to myself, you know what? Well done. Arsenal fans are very inventive. But yeah, that Arteta's got some drawing skills, man.
Vincey, final word from you.
Yeah, man, I'm just loving it. I'm looking forward to the final 3 episodes. I'm just in love. I'm in love with my club again. Trust me, it's it for me, it was painful to see some of the football and tactics we played, but I'm back in love with Arsenal. I'm back in love with. I've always wanted to see youngsters progress and move forward, and I'm in a good place, good vibe about the team right now. I bought a home shirt. Now trust me, the last Arsenal shirt I bought, them boys were playing and the ball.
I know. I remember you telling me
this. You know me. It's like for me to now buy an Arsenal shirt. I'm in a different place right now with this team. Loving it.
Yeah.
Big up to Kirk.
Yeah, I met up with Kirk at the at the Emirates Stadium and had a really good chat with him. Love his support, man. Love his passion and the work he does with the community. Absolutely love it, bro. And catch the show from Work and Kids. Yeah, tell me about it, man. Watch the show from the beginning. A lot of good talking points. A lot of good things we've brought to light about the show, All or Nothing. And again, big shout out to Sharu. Big shout out to Piers, the production team of Amazon. You've done a fantastic job. You'll forever have my respect. And well done to everybody who won at 101 who helped along with the interviews as well. So, guys, that's it from us today. I'm absolutely exhausted. I've had a really heavy weekend, and I'm just going to flake out in a puff of smoke after I finish the stream. But thank you guys for all of us and all of your input. And let's bring it on, man. Let's get Bournemouth and Fulham done, and let's start to pull this gap on these teams behind us. All right, man. Peace out, everybody. Nice one.
Take care, guys.